Well, 30 years after media interest in California's new gender tax legislation, back in 1995 to be precise, well, it gave us the term pink tax. And new research has revealed that women are paying more than ever.
Yeah, the independent research by Melbourne feminist writer and consumer advocate Karen Bijkersma reveals that gendered pricing remains widespread across Australia and it costs women far more than previously estimated. And Karen joins us now. Karen, great to get an insight into this. And I guess, what is it, just feminising products, making them more expensive or, smaller in terms of volume for the same price?
It's a combination of all those things, which is what makes it hard to spot now. It's not as straightforward as here's a pink bicycle and here's a blue bicycle. The pink one costs more. Marketers have found very clever, tricky ways of inserting pink tax into some products that's not automatically apparent. And you really need to stand and study products in the retail environment, which they know we're not going to do. So I've been uncovering lots of very tricky different ways in which marketers capture pink tax. I've been doing a pink tax audit, I suppose you could say.
Yeah, I'm sure you've been getting out and about plenty to do so. So give us some examples.
One of the first examples I saw, and it was actually quite shocking to see this for the first time because, like a lot of people, I had assumed it was a thing of the past. I saw a pair of pink garden shears, pruning shears, that were hanging alongside a black pair that were $5 less. So the pink pair was $29.95, $5 more than the blue pair. And that was one of those straightforward examples of pinkflation, adding a cost to the pink version. But yes, that's just one very simple example. Most of the examples I found, and I looked at over 20 retailers, more than 20 major brands, the top 20 plus a few more in Australia. And, I must have looked at thousands of products, but I've collected to date data on around 80 products comparing pink and blue. One of the sneaky ways is what I've come to call pinkification, just as a way to categorise different methods of pink tax and distinguish that from straight out pinkflation, and that is changing the product, building the pink tax into the product, for example, with razors, with pretty scented handles that emit a fragrance when you use them, and we're paying more for that. So some of those additions justify the cost, but do they really?
Yeah. I guess sometimes, though, in market economics, it's supply and demand. You can tell by my outfit, by my nails. I love pink. I'm basically a 14-year-old trapped in a middle-aged woman's body. Nadine knows, will buy anything that's pink. So if I'm willing to pay that more because it is pink, is that the same as discriminating on things that women have to buy? We obviously know there's always that extra burden of things like period products and the like. How do you sort of differentiate between something that could be just a higher price because maybe it's more popular?
Oh, you've covered a variety of topics in that one statement there. I'll try and unpack that a little. We are attracted to pink. We've been groomed our whole lives to prefer pink, and not all females do, or sorry, I should say women or girls do, but we have been well trained to be attracted to pink, or the booba elements. If you've heard of Kiki and booba, which is Kiki is sharp, more masculine, booba is softer, more feminine, and it has to do with sound, shape, colour, a lot of the things that make up products and their packaging, the sound of words, for example. So we see that in different products, and we do identify feminine with booba, and as women we often do identify with that, or just prefer it. And we should be able to, we should have that choice without penalty though. Mm-hmm. And if there really is an extra cost in manufacturing one version of a product for women, as opposed to the same product or essentially the same product for men, marketers could equalise that extra cost across the two colours so that women aren't penalised when, as you say, we are being penalised so much already with our biology and our need for period products. We go through puberty, we need bras for, our whole lives. Our swimming costumes are different. We go through menopause, birth, pregnancy, delivery, all kinds of physical, biological reasons why we need extra products. And we are living 4 or 5 years longer than men. We're living to the age of 84, so there's an extra 5-year cost there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
as well as the gender pay gap, superannuation effect of the gender pay gap. The list goes on and on and on. And in the report, I do identify around a dozen of these additional costs that are pretty much incalculable.
It's incredible, isn't it? Once you start to peel the layers back, just how complex this issue is. I'm a little bit different than Juliet. She knows that I love a bargain. I will always get the black ones over the pink if they're $5 cheaper. But put some numbers around this for us. How much do you reckon this is costing the average woman, girl, more per year? Or I don't know, how did you do the calculations?
Good question, and important to know. I assumed I would find that figure with a quick Google search, an Australian figure on an estimate of what we are paying in pink tax per year, and it wasn't to be found. The figure that's most quoted is from 1994 that informed the legislation of 1995 in California, and that figure is 2,381 is actually a 2020 California figure. The 1995 figure that is still widely quoted is around 1,300. I think it's 1,341. Now, that was 1994-95. So to find an Australian figure, as an independent researcher, it wasn't possible to calculate myself. So I updated the latest available figure, the California 2020 figure. I converted to Australian dollars, added 5 years of inflation, and arrived at the shocking cost of $4,300 per year, or 360,000. So I'm having trouble getting my head around it. Yeah. $360,000 per woman, typically per lifetime, on pink tax, which sounds maybe absurd, but when you start to look around and add up the amounts on so many products, for example, school uniforms, a basic set for girls and a basic set for boys, the girls' uniform basic set costs an extra $84. It's $11.45 just on the skirts as opposed to the shorts. And really, do we need to be gendering school uniforms like that anyway? There's a whole other question.
Well, I was going to say,
gendered products, don't get me started.
We don't have time for that. Look, this has been really interesting. I think on, what did we say, the 30th year of having pink tax brought into the vernacular. It's worthwhile revisiting it, worthwhile remembering that this stuff really still does exist. So it's pinkflation, pinkification, and I like in your research also saying that separating women's and men's products and areas that they're sold in so that you don't have that comparison. So it's not front of mind when you're picking. Look, Karen, really great to have you on. Thank you so much for bringing us this research. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
I got to go back and have a look at how much more I've paid for everything.
I think you've paid a lot more just going by the color scheme in here on a day-to-day basis. Look, we were going to check in on the market.